Chapter 3, The Book of 8 Pages. The next morning, Dune showed up at the door of the doctor's house looking for Lena. "She's out in the bag," said Miss Myrtle, hanging up the wash. Dune found her in the midst of clothes and covers flapping in the chilly wind. She was hoisting up over a cord strung between the house and the tree, spinning them in place with split sticks. "Lena," he said, "I have to talk to you." She came out from behind a large damp skirt, one of the Dr. Hester's. "Good," she said. "What have you figured out?" The day before, after they'd recognized the word Ember on the cover, Dune had gone quickly back home to read through what was left of the book's pages. "It's definitely something from the ancient world," he said now, "but I can't tell exactly what." "You know how many pages are left in this book? 8. And most of them are from the back. The Romer must have started tearing them out one by one from the beginning, but the back pages are mostly diagrams and math and words I don't understand." "Can you understand any of it?" Lena asked, pulling a wet shirt out of the laundry basket. "Just a little here and there, but it's enough to give me a few clues. I think the book must be about a machine of some sort, maybe something electric. I can make out the word current, for instance. Doesn't that sound like electricity?" "I don't know," said Lena. "It could mean the current of a river." Dune was so fascinated by electricity that anything could sound electric to him, she thought. "There's always crystal and shine," Dune said. Lena flopped the shirt over the clothesline. "That sounds more like jewels." "No, I don't think so," Dune said. "I think it's some kind of machine." He seemed full of pent-up energy. He paced back and forth beside the clothesline, batting the wind-blown clothes out of his way. "I just know that the book is important, Lena," he said, "and it was meant for us, for the people of Ember." Lena was trying to pin the shirt to the line, but the wind kept snatching it away from her. "Would you help me with this shirt? I can't make it stay up." Lena was trying to pin the shirt to the line, but the wind kept snatching it away from her. "Would you help me with this shirt? I can't make it stay up." Dune grabbed one sleeve of the shirt and wrapped it around the clothesline. "I've been thinking so much about all this, Lena, about this book and what it might mean, and about what happened to the Ark and how I like to." He trailed off. The shirt came loose from the line and fell into the dirt before Lena could catch it. "I don't know for sure," Dune went on, not noticing, "but I feel." He looked away, and his eyebrows drew together as if he were figuring out a puzzle written in the sky. "I feel the way we did about the instructions that Poppy chewed up. It was our mystery to figure out. It came to us. This feels the same." Lena picked up the shirt and, shaking the dirt off it, thought of the tattered book with dismay. "You mean we have to figure out what it says? What all those missing pages are about?" No, we can't do that. Too much is gone. But we have to do something. We can't just ignore it." The wind blew his hair into his eyes, and he swiped it away impatiently. There are so many troubles here, Lena. It's cold and dark, and there isn't enough food, and people are sick. Maybe the book is about something that would make things better. Did you show it to your father?" "No," said Dune. "I haven't shown it to anyone." "Why not?" Dune went on as if he hadn't heard the question. "I think there's something up near Ember that we were meant to find. Look at the title of the book, Directions for Use. It's so much like instructions for egress." "It is," Lena admitted. "I think we should go and look for it," Dune said. Lena gave a short laugh of disbelief. "No one would let us," said Dune. "I know, that's why I haven't told anyone. We'd be forbidden to go." "But how can we go?" asked Lena. "We don't even know what we'd be looking for." An uneasy feeling twisted in her stomach. She wasn't sure if it was excitement or fear. "I've been thinking about it," Dune said. "I know it's risky. We might not find anything at all. But I want to go to Ember. But I want to go back to Ember, Lena, and I want you to come with me." But of course that was impossible. Lena had tried to laugh when Dune said it, but she couldn't quite laugh, because she saw that he was serious. She could tell that he would have explained all his plans to her right there in the cold yard with the laundry flying if Miss Myrtle hadn't called out the kitchen window for Lena to come in and peel potatoes. Meet me tomorrow, Dune said, at the Ark, at sunrise, can you? I'll tell you more then. She agreed. That afternoon, she peeled potatoes, fetched the wood for the fire, dug a hole in the garden for the garbage, and scraped up wax drippings to melt down for more candles. She was too busy to do much thinking, but in the evening, she finally had time to be still. Dinner was over. It hadn't been much of a dinner, just a thin carrot soup, dry bread, and some bits of cheese with the mold cut off. Lena had gotten used to having a half-empty stomach most of the time. She settled herself in a chair by the fire. Torrin was sitting on the floor nearby, poking the logs with a long fork and watching the sparks fly up. Poppy was asleep upstairs. On the table beside Lena was an unfinished drawing she'd been working on for weeks in her brief spare moments. She'd always loved to draw. When she lived in Ember, she had drawn pictures of the city that she saw in her imagination. A bright, beautiful city, not like Ember at all, with white buildings and a blue sky. It was just a dream, she knew, something she'd made up. She'd never seen a sky that wasn't black, but it held a fascination for her. And she drew it over and over. She had left those pictures behind when she left Ember. She wished she still had them, and she tried once or twice to draw them again. But it didn't work somehow. These days, she wanted to draw what she saw around her. The houses, the animals, the trees of sparks. The drawing she'd been working on lately was of a chicken. It wasn't coming out well. Most of the time, she had to use bits of charcoal for drawing, so her pictures turned out clumsy and smeared. Now and then, Dune found a pencil stub for her at the hotel, which let her draw clear lines for a while, but she missed the colored pencils she'd had in Ember. They would have been perfect for this chicken. The drawing her paper came from Dune too. He had been working with Edward Pocket, who'd been the librarian in Ember. Here in Sparks, Edward had put himself in charge of the huge disorderly pile of books that had accumulated over the years in the back room of the Ark. Little by little, with Dune's help, he was putting those books in order for so that people could actually find them and read them. Dune had discovered that old books sometimes had blank pages in the back. He tore them out and brought them to Lena. She turned her thoughts to Ember. The very name filled her with both sadness and longing. Ember, where she had grown up, where all the people she cared about had lived. Ember, whose streets and buildings she had known so well. Every alley, every corner, every doorway. She thought about Dune, what Dune had said. Could she go back there? Would she want to? Miss Myrtle came in with a candle in one hand and a cup of tea in the other. Mint, Lena could tell from the scent of it. She sank into a chair by the dying fire. Dr. Hester's asleep, she said. I finally convinced her she needed a rest. She's been rushing around, taking care of everyone else for weeks, and she's worn herself out. To Lena, a room always felt more safe and comfortable when Miss Myrtle was in it. She was a neat, upright, sharp-featured woman, not the soft and cozy sort at all. But she was kind of sensible, and Lena trusted her completely. She would get to bed, said Miss Myrtle. I don't want to go to bed, said Torrin. He hunched up his shoulders and pinched his face into a frown. You'll want to after the fire burns down and it gets cold, said Miss Myrtle. I'll go then, said Torrin. Not now. He prodded the burnt logs with the fork until they fell into glowing pieces. Embers, Lena said, looking at them. That's what our city was named after. I don't see how you could have lived underground, said Torrin. I still think you might be making it all up. We're not, said Lena. Why would we? Maybe you really came from outer space, Torrin said, on an airplane. You were there when we came, Lena said. Did you notice any airplanes? No, Torrin said. He swept the fork around in the fireplace, scattering the coals. I'd just like to see that underground place, that's all. Maybe I would too, thought Lena. But when she thought about how Amber would be now, completely dark, completely abandoned, she shivered. No, they couldn't possibly go. She would say that to Dune tomorrow, and surely he would come to his senses and agree. She went down to the Ark early the next morning. It was a blustery day. Clouds rose from the western horizon, immense, licking the carved wood-painted white, blue shadows. Up on the roof of the main part of the building, workers were ripping away rotted, sodded wood, hurrying to repair the hole before the next rain. The roof of the back room where Edward Pocket was making his library hadn't been damaged, and some people had grumbled about that. Why couldn't the useless book have gotten ruined instead of the food? Dune was standing outside the back room door. The wind flapped his jacket. He wasn't wearing the old brown jacket he'd always worn before. Just the last month or so, that one had gotten impossibly small for him, and he now had a dark green one that came from the donation pile the people of Sparks had put together for their new citizens. It was a bit frayed around the cuffs, but at least the bare wrist didn't poke out from the sleeves. "Come inside," Dune said, "out of the wind." He led her into the back room where a giant heap of books had accumulated over the years. They picked their way among the tumbled piles in the dim light coming from the dirty window. Dune made 2 book stacks for them to sit on. Before Lena could say anything, he began explaining. "I know you think I've lost my mind," he said. "Well," Lena said, "I don't think so, sort of. I don't see how we could find our way to Amber. Even if we could, it would take too long to get there. We'd have to be out in the cold at night. It took us 4 days to get to Sparks after we came out of Amber. But you and I could go much faster," Dune said. "When we came from Amber, we had old people and small children with us, and we didn't know where we were going. You and I could do it in one long day walk, I'm sure. But even if we could get there," said Lena, "we couldn't get into the city. We couldn't go against the current up the river." "I know," said Dune, "but we might be able to get in from above. I'm thinking we could go back to the ledge we threw the message from. We could check the slope of the cliff. Maybe we could get down." "But even if we could get down," Lena said, "the city's completely dark. We'd never find anything there, even if we did know what we were looking for." "But we have candles now," Dune said. We take lots of them with us. I'll study every word of that book for clues about what we're looking for and where it is. And listen, we might not find the thing in the book, but we could find other things. There might still be food there, or medicine. Remember that salve we used to rub on cuts? If some of that was left, it could help my father. He won't say so, but I can tell his hand hurts him terribly. It might be infected." "I remember that salve," Lena said. "It was called Anti-B. I think we still had an old tube of it in Granny's, mostly empty." "Even a little would help," Dune said, "and there might be other useful things people could trade with. We could find out." Lena could see how excited he was, how much he wanted to do this. To her, it seemed dangerous, difficult, and probably hopeless. But she had to admit that this excitement inspired her a bit. Life had been hard and dull lately, and adventure would change that. She wasn't a bit sure that Dune's plans would succeed. Things were always so much neater in a person's imagination than they were in real life. But just to go on a journey, even if they found nothing and had to turn right around and come home, she was tempted. "But we can't just disappear," Lena said. "People would worry." She remembered how terribly anxious Miss Myrtle had been the 2 times before when she'd gone away without saying where she was going. When she left Amber one day of the singing, and just a few months ago when she went off to the ancient ruined city. She didn't want to put Miss Myrtle through that again. But Dune had all this figured out. It was complicated, but he was sure it would work. "Lena," he said, "must go and talk to Maddie.
She was the one who'd come to town during the summer with Torrin's brother Casper and stayed on after Casper's quest failed to help with the garden. There wasn't much to do on the garden in winter, so Maddie would have extra time. Lena should ask her if she'd be willing to move to the doctor's house for a few days and help Miss Myrtle. If Maddie says yes, Doone was sure she would. Lena should tell Miss Myrtle that she needed a bit of change and would like to stay at the Pioneer for a while. Tell her that you and Maddie will just switch places, he said. Then once Maddie has left, I'll tell her father I'm going to stay with you at the doctor's house for a few days because you need some extra help. But won't your father wonder why we need Maddie and you? Lena asked. No, with so many people sick and the doctor always away, he'll know she needs lots of help. The sun went down behind a cloud, and the light in the room grew even dimmer than before. Lena pondered. His sensible self and her adventurous self tugged against each other. She looked at the serious expression in Doone's dark eyes. He was determined to do this. She wasn't sure if he was being brave or reckless, wise or foolish, maybe a little of each. So Doone said, "Shall we go?" She thought of the empty lands, the wolves, the range there, the wolves that ranged there, the rain and cold and wind. She thought of peeling potatoes, cleaning the outhouse, washing medicine bottles, hanging up laundry. She thought of Amber, where just possibly something important might be waiting for them. She pushed her doubts aside and took a deep breath. "All right," she said, "we'll go." Doone nodded, not smiling. "I knew you'd say that."